The sound of laughter drifted through the corridors of our Lagos mansion like poison in the air. I stood frozen in the doorway of my own bedroom, my traditional gold gelly slipping slightly as my world tilted on its axis. My husband Kunal, the man I had built an empire with over 17 years, was tangled in our marriage bed with a girl young enough to be our daughter. Zainab, you're making me feel like a young man again. His voice carried that particular joy I hadn't heard in years. The sound cut through me like a blade. The young woman giggled, her voice high and carefree. What about your wife? That woman with all her traditional ways and boring business meetings? Kunal's response made my blood freeze. Adora? She's 43, stuck in her father's old ways. You, my dear, you're everything she's not. Fresh, exciting, modern. 25 years of youth and beauty. I am Adora Akonkwomensa, owner of the largest textile import business in West Africa, mother of 2 university students, and apparently, a boring relic according to my husband. The golden Ankara fabric of my expensive bubu suddenly felt heavy, suffocating. Every sacrifice I'd made, every late night building our wealth, every family gathering I'd hosted, reduced to boring and traditional. I backed away silently, my heart pounding like the talking drums at our wedding. The Italian marble floors I'd chosen, the hand-carved furniture from Senegal, the art collection worth millions, all of it felt tainted now, contaminated by this betrayal. In the kitchen, I caught my reflection in the glass of the wine cabinet. I still looked good, my skin glowing with shea butter, my figure maintained through careful diet and dance, my gelly wrapped with the precision that spoke of culture and dignity. But in that moment, I felt ancient, discarded, invisible. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in my private study and made calls. By dawn, I had engaged the services of the best private investigator in Lagos, a sharp woman named Detective Amaka, who had helped several of my wealthy friends uncover uncomfortable truths. Dawn broke over Lagos, the city coming alive with its usual chaos of traffic and traders. I sat in the breakfast room, dressed impeccably in a deep blue Ankara dress with gold embroidery, my gelly wrapped high and proud. The divorce papers sat beside my plate of akara and pap, each page a declaration of my independence. Kunal stumbled down the stairs, his guilty conscience written across his face like headlines in The Guardian. He kissed my forehead absently, the same lips that had whispered lies to that girl just hours ago. "You're up early, my dear," he said, reaching for his usual cup of strong coffee. "We need to discuss something important." My voice was steady, though my heart hammered against my ribs like a blacksmith's anvil. Something in my tone made him pause. His dark eyes, the ones I'd fallen in love with at the University of Lagos 20 years ago, met mine with growing alarm. "Discuss what?" "About Zainab." The name dropped between us like a thunderclap. Kunal's face drained of color, his coffee cup clattering against the imported china saucer. "Adora, I can explain." "No need." I slid the divorce papers across the mahogany table we'd bought together in Cotonou. "I saw everything last night. Every kiss, every touch, every word about how boring and traditional I am." His hands trembled as he picked up the documents. "This is madness. We can work through this." "Marriage counseling." "Counseling?" My laugh was sharp enough to cut through the morning humidity. "You want to discuss rebuilding trust with the same mouth that was kissing a 25-year-old in our bed? The bed where we conceived our children." Detective Amaka's office was in Victoria Island, tucked away in a building that looked ordinary from the outside, but housed some of the city's sharpest minds. She spread manila folders across her desk like market women displaying their finest wares. "Your husband has been careless, Mrs. Mensah," Amaka said, her Lagos accent crisp and professional. "They've been together for 9 months. Hotels, restaurants, even took her to Dubai last month when you thought he was at that conference. 9 months. I remembered that trip, how he brought me back gold jewelry and promises of love. My stomach churned like bad fufu. "Tell me about her," I said, studying a photograph of Zainab laughing at some expensive restaurant. She was beautiful in that unmarked way of youth. No stretch marks from childbirth, No worry lines from building businesses, no gray hairs carefully colored away. Zainab Adu, 25 years old, works at one of those new tech startups in Lekki. Studied business administration at Covenant University. Parents divorced when she was young. Raised primarily by her father. Amaka flipped through her notes. The father is interesting. Alhaji Ibrahim Adu, very wealthy, very influential. Made his fortune in real estate and oil. Lost his wife to cancer 6 years ago. Never remarried. Zainab is his only child, and from what my sources say, she's spoiled rotten. Alhaji Ibrahim Adu. I repeated, the name triggering recognition. I'd heard of him in business circles. A man who commanded respect, who had built something from nothing, who valued honor and reputation above all else. An idea began forming in my mind, dangerous and delicious as suya spice. I want to meet him, I said firmly. Amaka raised an eyebrow. The father? Mrs. Minsa, what are you planning? Something his daughter will never forget. The Nigerian Businesswomen's Association Gala was the event of the season. I had been on the planning committee for months, which meant I knew exactly who would be there, including Alhaji Ibrahim Adu, who had donated generously to our scholarship fund. I dressed with military precision that evening. A stunning gold and royal blue Ankara gown that hugged every curve I'd maintained through yoga and traditional dance. My gheli was wrapped in the elaborate style that announced status and pride. Diamond earrings that Kunal had bought me for our 15th anniversary caught the light with every movement. I looked devastating, powerful, and I knew it. Alhaji Ibrahim stood near the silent auction tables, his presence commanding even in a room full of Nigeria's elite. He was handsome in that distinguished way, silver threading through his dark hair, a strong jaw that spoke of house and nobility, eyes that held depths of wisdom and pain. He wore an immaculate white agbada with intricate embroidery, the traditional attire doing nothing to hide his still powerful build. Alhaji Adu. I approached with the confidence of a woman who had negotiated deals with Chinese manufacturers and German buyers. I am Adora Minsa. I believe our children know each other. His smile was warm, genuine, his handshake firm. Mrs. Minsa, pleasure to meet you. Your work with this organization is admirable. Our children, I must confess, I'm not following. Your daughter Zainab is very close with my husband Kunal. I let the words carry their full weight of implication. Something shifted in his expression, a sharpening of paternal instincts, a wariness that spoke of a man who dealt with many situations in his life. Close? In what way? Perhaps we could speak privately? I gestured toward the balcony where the Lagos skyline glittered like scattered diamonds. This is not a conversation for crowded rooms. We stepped outside into the humid night air, the sounds of the party muffled behind us. I pulled out my phone, showing him the photographs Detective Amaka had provided. His face went through a journey of emotions, confusion, recognition, disgust, and finally a cold fury that made my pulse quicken with something that wasn't entirely fear. How long? His voice could have frozen the tropics. 9 months that I know of. I discovered them 3 nights ago. In my bed. In my house. Alhaji Ibrahim studied the photographs with the intensity of a man cataloging evidence for war. His daughter, barely older than university graduate, wrapped around a married man with grown children. The shame of it reflected in every tightening line of his distinguished face. Madam, I'm deeply sorry you had to discover this, he said finally, his Hausa accent thickening with emotion. This is not how I raised my daughter. This is not the behavior of a woman with proper home training. Are you sorry? Or are you just sorry that your daughter got caught playing homewrecker? My words were sharp, but I softened them with understanding. Alhaji, we are both victims here. Both betrayed by people we loved. Our eyes met, and I saw something dangerous flickering in his gaze, something that matched the fire burning in my own chest. This was a man who understood honor, who valued family, who would not take this insult lightly. What do you propose we do? He asked quietly. That depends. How far are you willing to go to teach our children about consequences? The Terra Culture Cafe was neutral ground, away from prying eyes and Lagos gossip. Al-Haji Ibrahim sat across from me, his hands wrapped around a cup of Arabic coffee he hadn't touched. 5 days had passed since the gala. 5 days of him trying to reason with his daughter. She says she loves him, Ibrahim said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Claims he's going to divorce you and marry her. As if this is some Nollywood romance instead of the disgrace it truly is. Is he now? I sipped my Zobo drink, its tartness matching my mood. How generous of my husband to make promises with assets he doesn't own. Everything we have, the house, the businesses, the investments, all are in both our names. He has nothing without me. I threatened to cut her off completely. The trust fund, the apartment, the car, everything. She laughed in my face, said Kunal would take care of her. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. My own daughter, who I raised with every advantage, throwing away her dignity for a married man old enough to be her father. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Two parents watching their family foundations crumble, both betrayed by people who should have known better. What if we gave them exactly what they claimed to want? I asked, my voice soft but deadly. Ibrahim's sharp eyes focused on me. Explain. They want to play house, to live their fantasy. Let them. But they'll do it without our support. No money from you. No assets from me. Let them learn what real life costs when you destroy a family. You're talking about cutting them off completely. I'm talking about accountability, Al-Haji. Your daughter is destroying a marriage, breaking up a family. My husband is throwing away 17 years and 2 children for a girl who could be our daughter. They both need to understand that actions have consequences. Ibrahim leaned back, studying me with new appreciation. And what do we gain from this arrangement? I smiled, the expression sharp as a Calabar carving. We gain the satisfaction of watching them crash and burn. And perhaps, I'll let the words hang between us like incense smoke. We gain the chance to rebuild something better from the ashes. The understanding that passed between us was electric, dangerous, and absolutely intoxicating. The weeks that followed were a dance of strategy and surprising discovery. Ibrahim and I met frequently, ostensibly to discuss our wayward children, but increasingly to simply talk. He understood betrayal in ways Kunal never could. He valued honor, family, tradition, all the things I've been called boring for cherishing. My wife, Amina, she died believing I'd protect our daughter from harm. Ibrahim told me one evening at his Ikoyi mansion. We sat in his study, surrounded by books and art collected over decades. Instead, I raised a woman who thinks nothing of destroying another woman's marriage. The shame of it keeps me awake at night. You raised her with love. Sometimes that's not enough to prevent poor choices. I found myself reaching across to touch his hand, a gesture of comfort that lingered longer than necessary. He didn't pull away. Instead, his thumb traced circles on my wrist, sending unexpected shivers through me. How are you so understanding? After everything she's done to you, because I've learned that hate only poisons the one who carries it. And because I looked up at him, really looked at him, seeing past the distinguished businessman to the lonely widower beneath, I understand that sometimes we all need grace. The air between us shifted, charged with something neither of us had planned. He was handsome, successful, honorable, everything Kunal had pretended to be. And the way he looked at me made me feel seen in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Edora, he said my name like a prayer. This is complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. I leaned closer, close enough to smell his cologne mixed with the faint scent of frankincense. Our children certainly didn't worry about complications. Their children playing with fire. And what are we? My voice dropped to a whisper. We're adults who know exactly what fire can do. His hand moved to cup my face, his touch gentle but filled with barely restrained hunger. And I find myself wanting to burn anyway. When he kissed me, it was nothing like the desperate groping I'd witnessed between Kunal and Zainab. This was controlled power, deliberate passion. Two people who'd survived storms finding shelter in each other. This was fire that could forge steel or reduce kingdoms to ash. Stay, he whispered against my lips. Stay tonight. Ibrahim's bedroom was masculine elegance. darkwood furniture, crisp white linens, windows overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. When he carried me over the threshold, I caught our reflection in a full-length mirror. We looked dangerous together, like two warriors who'd found the perfect battle partner. "Are you certain?" he asked, even as his fingers found the zipper of my Ankara dress. Once we crossed this line, I've never been more certain of anything. My dress pooled at my feet like liquid gold. They wanted to destroy our families. Let's show them what real destruction looks like. His touch was reverent, hungry, nothing like the detached affection I'd grown accustomed to. He explored every curve, every line, as if I were a precious artifact to be treasured. When he laid me on his bed, his eyes darkened with desire that made me feel powerful, beautiful, chosen. "You are magnificent," he breathed, his lips trailing fire down my neck, across my collarbones, lower still. I arched into him, years of neglect and hurt burning away under his skilled attention. Show me I'm worth more than he ever appreciated." What followed was hours of passionate reclamation. Two people taking back their power, their dignity, their right to desire and be desired. Every touch was a rebellion. Every kiss a declaration that we refused to be diminished by those who betrayed us. When dawn finally painted the sky pink and gold, we lay tangled in sheets that smelled of satisfaction and new beginnings. "I should feel guilty," I said, tracing patterns on his chest. "But I don't. Not even a little." "Good." Ibrahim's arm tightened around me. "They started this war. We're just fighting back with better weapons." His phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Zainab demanding money for a romantic weekend with her married lover. Ibrahim showed me the message, his jaw tightening with renewed anger. "Perfect timing," I said, a plan crystallizing with beautiful clarity. "Text her back. Tell her you want to meet for lunch tomorrow. That you have something important to discuss." "What are you thinking?" My smile could have lit up all of Lagos. "I'm thinking it's time for phase 2. They want to play happy family? Let's give them a family reunion they'll never forget. Hashtag the restaurant confrontation." The Yellow Chili in Victoria Island was upscale, discreet, the kind of place where Lagos's elite conducted delicate business. Zainab sat across from her father, her manicured nails drumming impatiently against the white tablecloth. She wore a too-tight dress that screamed trying too hard, her makeup applied with the heavy hand of someone who'd watched too many YouTube tutorials. "Daddy, if this is about Kunal again, it's about respect," Ibrahim interrupted, his voice carrying an edge that made other diners glance over. "Something you seem to have forgotten completely." She rolled her eyes in that way young people do when they think they know everything. "I'm an adult. I can date whoever I want. Even married men. Even men with families. His wife doesn't understand him. She's stuck in the past, all traditional and boring. Kunal needs someone modern, someone who appreciates him." The casual dismissal of 17 years of my life, of my sacrifices and love, made my blood boil from where I watched in the adjoining private room. But I waited, letting Ibrahim handle the first strike. "I want you to meet someone," Ibrahim said, signaling toward my room. "Another one of your business friends trying to set me up?" "No, thank you. Not a business friend. Someone much more important." I entered like a queen reclaiming her throne, dressed in a stunning emerald green Ankara gown with gold threading, my ghillie wrapped in the elaborate "please notice my status" style. The diamonds at my throat and wrists caught the light with every step. Zainab's face went through a spectacular range of emotions: confusion, recognition, and finally pure horror. "Zainabadu," I said, my voice silk wrapped around steel. "The home wrecker. How lovely to finally meet you face to face." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish pulled from the lagoon. What is she doing here?" "Sitting down to join us, actually." I settled into the chair beside Ibrahim, letting my hand rest on his arm with clear intimacy. "Your father and I have become quite close lately." The realization hit her like a slap. Her eyes darted between us, seeing the satisfied smiles, the casual way Ibrahim's hand covered mine, the undeniable chemistry crackling in the air between us. "No," she whispered, her face draining of color beneath her foundation. "This isn't, you can't." "Can't what, dear?" I asked sweetly. Fall in love with someone who treats me with respect? Value a man who understands honor and loyalty? Surely you, of all people, understand that the heart wants what it wants. Ibrahim's thumb stroked my wrist, his touch both possessive and tender. Adora and I have found something unexpected in each other. Something real, built on mutual respect rather than lies and betrayal. But he's old. He's my father. Zainab's voice rose, drawing stares from nearby tables. And Kunal is old enough to be your father, I replied calmly. Funny how age is only an issue when it's inconvenient for you, isn't it? The private dining room at the Lagos Country Club was all polished wood and colonial elegance. Kunal sat uncomfortably in his chair, his cheap suit looking shabby in the refined surroundings. Ibrahim had insisted on this meeting, and Kunal, ever the social climber, had agreed immediately. Mr. Mensa, Ibrahim greeted him with a handshake that Kunal probably thought was friendly, but was actually calculating his worth. Thank you for meeting with me. I thought it was time we discussed our children's relationship properly. Kunal shifted nervously, clearly expecting an angry father demanding he end the affair. Sir, I want you to know my intentions towards Zainab are completely honorable. I'm divorcing my wife, and I plan to marry your daughter. Are you? Ibrahim's smile could have frozen water. How fascinating. Tell me, what makes you think you're worthy of my daughter? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Kunal straightened, trying to project confidence he clearly didn't feel. I love her. I can provide for her. I have a successful import business, connections throughout West Africa. You had a successful business, Ibrahim corrected. From what my sources tell me, your wife Adora is the real force behind that company. You're essentially middle management with an inflated title. Kunal's face reddened. Now wait, The door opened, and I walked in. I'd chosen my outfit carefully. A deep purple Ankara dress with gold embroidery that made me look like Yoruba royalty. My geli was wrapped high and proud, my jewelry expensive but tasteful. I looked like money, power, and vindication all wrapped in one stunning package. Adora, what are you doing here? Kunal's confusion would have been comical if it weren't so satisfying. I'm here with my fiancée, darling. I settled into the chair beside Ibrahim with an intimacy that made Kunal's eyes widen. Surely you remember Al-Haji, Ibrahim, Audu, Zainab's father. Ibrahim reached into his igbada, producing a small velvet box that he placed on the table with deliberate ceremony. Inside was a ring that made Kunal's pathetic offerings look like Chinese market knockoffs. A massive emerald surrounded by diamonds, worth more than most Lagos apartments. I asked Adora to marry me this morning, Ibrahim said calmly. She said yes. The color drained from Kunal's face. This is insane. You barely know each other. We know each other well enough, I said, admiring the ring on my finger. Sometimes when you meet the right person, when you find someone who values you, who sees your worth, you just know. But we were married for 17 years. Were we? Or was I just a convenient placeholder financing your lifestyle while you waited for something younger and shinier to come along? The truth hit him like a Lagos Danfo bus. He looked between us, seeing the satisfaction in our eyes, the way we fit together like pieces of an Nsukka pottery set. This is revenge, he whispered. This is just revenge. This is justice, Ibrahim corrected, his hand finding mine. This is what happens when you forget that every action has consequences. 6 months later, the cathedral at St. Gregory's was packed with everyone who mattered in Lagos society. The who's who of Nigerian business, politics, and old money had turned out to witness what the society pages were calling the wedding of the decade. I walked down the aisle in a custom ivory lace gown overlaid with golden Ankara patterns, a fusion of modern elegance and traditional pride. My geli was a work of art, wrapped by the finest hands in Lagos, adorned with gold ornaments that caught every ray of light streaming through the stained glass windows. I looked like a bride, a queen, a woman reborn from the ashes of betrayal. In the front row, Zainab sat beside Kunal, both looking like they'd swallowed bitter cola. Their grand romance had crumbled spectacularly under the weight of reality. Without her father's financial support, and with Kunal's assets frozen in divorce proceedings, their passionate affair had devolved into blame, recrimination, and poverty. The fancy hotels became cheap lodges. The expensive dinners became arguments over who would pay for suya. The exciting spontaneity became stress over unpaid bills. Love, it turned out, didn't pay rent in Lagos. Ibrahim waited at the altar in a magnificent white agbada with silver embroidery, his smile wide and genuine. What had started as revenge had evolved into something deeper, something real. We were two wounded souls who'd found healing in each other's arms. Two warriors who discovered that the best victory is building something beautiful from the rubble of what others destroyed. Dearly beloved, the priest began in his melodious Nigerian accent. We are gathered here today to witness the union of two remarkable people. I barely heard the words. My focus was on Ibrahim's face, on the promise in his eyes, on the future we were building together. A future that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with genuine love, respect, and partnership. When it came time for vows, Ibrahim's voice was steady, certain, carrying through the packed cathedral. Adora, you came into my life when I had given up on finding joy again. You showed me that sometimes the most beautiful things rise from the ashes of what we thought was lost. I promise to love you, honor you, protect you, and stand with you against whatever challenges we face. You are my partner, my equal, my greatest blessing. My own vows trembled with emotion. Ibrahim, you saw me at my lowest point and chose to lift me up instead of walking away. You show me that revenge might be sweet, but love is sweeter. You reminded me that I am valuable, worthy, deserving of a man who treats me like a queen. I promise to be your partner, your equal, your greatest supporter, and your wife in every sense of the word. When we kissed, sealing our union before God and all of Lagos society, the cathedral erupted in applause and ululation. But my attention was on the front row, where Zainab was openly crying. Not tears of joy, but tears of absolute, complete defeat. The reception at the Oriental Hotel was legendary. We'd spared no expense. The finest Nigerian cuisine, a live band that had everyone on their feet, decorations that transformed the ballroom into a palace worthy of Yoruba royalty. Every detail screamed success, triumph, and most importantly, happiness. During our first dance, Ibrahim pulled me close. Any regrets? He whispered in my ear. I looked around at the celebration, at our families finally coming together, at the future stretching before us bright and full of promise. Not a single one. You, only that I didn't meet you first, he said, and kissed me in a way that made the crowd cheer. Later, as I changed from my wedding gown into my going-away outfit, a stunning turquoise Ankara dress with silver threading, I caught Zainab's reflection in the bridal suite mirror. She stood in the doorway, looking smaller and more pathetic than I'd ever seen her. Congratulations, she said quietly, the word clearly choking her. I turned to face her, this girl who tried to steal my life and ended up losing everything. Thank you. I just wanted you to know, her voice broke. I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't understand what I was destroying, what I was throwing away. No, I said gently, you didn't. But you do now, don't you? She nodded, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. Kunal isn't who I thought he was. When the money ran out, when things got hard, he blamed me for everything. Said I ruined his life. That he gave up a good woman for a spoiled brat. The irony was delicious. Kunal had discovered that young and exciting became young and expensive very quickly. Without my financial stability and business acumen, he was just another middle-aged man with delusions of grandeur and an empty bank account. And now you want forgiveness. I asked not unkindly. I want to understand how you did it. How you turned this around so completely. I smiled, touching the massive emerald on my finger. I remembered my worth. I stopped letting other people define my value. And I found a man who sees me as I truly am. Not as a boring placeholder, but as a queen. 1 year after the wedding, life had settled into something resembling beautiful normalcy. Ibrahim and I had merged our business interests, creating an empire that spanned real estate, textiles, and import-export. Together, we were unstoppable. His strategic mind, combined with my operational excellence, made us the power couple everyone wanted to partner with. The penthouse we'd purchased together overlooked the Atlantic, a stunning space that blended modern luxury with traditional Nigerian art. Every morning, I woke up in Ibrahim's arms, feeling cherished, valued, respected, everything I'd been denied in my first marriage. Zainab lived in our guest quarters, essentially a prisoner of her own poor choices. She'd come crawling back after Kunal had thrown her out when she could no longer pay half the rent on their shabby flat in Suralere. Ibrahim, being a good father despite everything, had taken her in, but on our terms. She worked for one of our companies now, in an entry-level position despite her university degree. She lived on a modest salary, learning the value of money she'd once spent so carelessly. Most importantly, she lived under the authority of the woman whose marriage she'd tried to destroy. "Good morning, stepmother," she said every morning, the title a constant reminder of how spectacularly her plans had backfired. Kunal, meanwhile, had fallen much further. His business had collapsed without my expertise and connections. His fancy car was repossessed. He'd moved back in with his elderly mother in Ikordu, becoming the subject of pitying whispers throughout Lego society. He tried to win me back once, showing up at our penthouse with flowers and tears. Ibrahim had him removed by security, but not before I got to say my piece. "You call me boring," I reminded him. Said I was stuck in my father's old ways. "Now look at you, broken, bitter, alone. While I'm here, married to a real man, building an empire, living my best life. Tell me, Kunal, who's boring now?" On our first anniversary, Ibrahim surprised me with a gift that made me laugh and cry simultaneously. It was Kunal's original wedding ring, the one he'd sold along with his watch, golf clubs, and anything else of value when desperation hit. "How did you get this?" I asked, studying the familiar gold band. "I bought everything he sold," Ibrahim admitted with a satisfied smile. "His watch, his car, his golf membership, everything. I wanted to make sure he had nothing left of his old life. Nothing to remind him of what he threw away." I slipped the ring onto my right hand next to my wedding band and engagement ring. "Perfect. Now I have everything that used to be his, including his father-in-law." We laughed together, the sound echoing through our beautiful home, our beautiful life, our beautiful revenge that had somehow become the most genuine love either of us had ever known. 2 years into our marriage, I stood on our balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. From betrayed wife to respected business magnate to beloved wife of one of Nigeria's most prominent men, the transformation was complete. Zainab joined me on the balcony, her appearance much humbler than it used to be. Gone were the designer clothes and expensive highlights. Now she dressed modestly, wore minimal makeup, and carried herself with something resembling humility. "I'm moving out next month," she said quietly. "I've saved enough for my own place. A small flat in Yaba." "Good for you," I said, meaning it. "You've worked hard. I wanted to thank you," she continued, her voice thick with emotion, "for not destroying me completely, for giving me a chance to learn, to grow, to understand what I did wrong." I turned to look at her, this girl who'd once seemed like my greatest enemy. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for Ibrahim. And honestly, watching you learn humility has been more satisfying than any other punishment I could have devised." She nodded, accepting the truth of it. "For what it's worth, my father is happier than I've ever seen him. You're good for him. Better than my mother ever was, if I'm being honest." And Kunal, her face hardened. "I haven't spoken to him in over a year. Last I heard, he was trying to start some sort of business in Ghana, running away from his failures here." We stood in companionable silence, two women who'd been on opposite sides of a war, but had somehow found understanding in its aftermath. "You taught me something important," Zainab said finally. "That consequences are real. That actions have prices. That you can't just take what you want without destroying something valuable in the process. And have you learned it?" "Truly, I'm learning. Every day. Every time I call you stepmother, every time I see you and my father together, every time I remember what I almost lost, I learn a little more." 5 years after that devastating night when I discovered my husband's betrayal, I stood in the same bedroom where it all began. But everything had changed. This was my bedroom now, in my house, shared with my husband, a real husband who valued me, respected me, loved me completely. Ibrahim came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? About how different things are. How much has changed? Regrets. Not a single one. I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd helped me rise from the ashes. You know what's funny? If Kunal hadn't betrayed me, I never would have met you. I never would have known what real partnership looks like. So you're saying I should thank him? Ibrahim's eyes twinkled with humor. God forbid. I laughed. But I am saying that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best outcomes. His betrayal freed me to find you. My phone buzzed. A message from my daughter in London, where she was completing her master's degree. She'd been devastated by the divorce initially, but had grown to love and respect Ibrahim. Mom, Ibrahim is a real one. Dad never deserved you. Children have a way of seeing through pretense to truth. The foundation is doing well, Ibrahim said, referring to the women's empowerment organization we'd started together. We've helped over 200 women start their own businesses this year. It had become our passion project, helping women who'd been abandoned, betrayed, or underestimated, teaching them that they had value beyond their marriages, that they could rebuild, that endings could become beginnings. You know what the best part is? I asked, looking around our beautiful home. Tell me. The best part is that I won not by destroying them, but by building something better. Kunal and Zainab destroyed themselves. All I did was step back and let consequences do their work. Ibrahim kissed my forehead. You're wise beyond measure, my love. From the guest quarters, soon to be vacant, came the sound of Zainab packing her belongings. She'd learned her lesson the hard way, but she'd learned. And in some strange way, that felt like victory too. Not because she'd suffered, but because she'd grown. The doorbell rang on a Saturday morning, interrupting our breakfast of akara, bread, and strong coffee. Our houseman announced that we had a visitor, someone we hadn't expected to see again. Kunal stood in our marble foyer, looking a decade older than his years. His clothes were clean but worn. His car outside was a modest Toyota instead of the Mercedes he used to drive. Life had not been kind to the man who'd thrown everything away for a moment of passion. What do you want? Ibrahim's voice was cold steel. Kunal's voice cracked. I came to apologize. To both of you. I descended the stairs slowly, dressed in a casual but elegant gold Ankara lounge dress, my natural hair in a beautiful twist out. I looked comfortable, confident, at home, everything he'd lost. Apologize? I repeated. 5 years later, I know I have no right to even stand in your home. But I needed you to know, he looked at me with haunted eyes, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was too foolish, too selfish, too caught up in some stupid crisis to see it. You're right, I said simply. You were. I've lost everything. The business, the respect, even my own children barely speak to me. All because I thought youth and excitement were more valuable than loyalty and partnership. Ibrahim stepped closer to me, his arms sliding protectively around my waist. The difference between you and me, Kunal, is that I recognized value when I saw it. You had a diamond and traded it for cheap glass. Kunal's eyes filled with tears. I know. God help me, I know. Why are you really here? I asked. Because if you think there's any possibility of reconciliation. No, he said quickly. I know that door is closed. I'm working with an NGO now, helping divorced men navigate their new reality. Part of my recovery is making amends where I can. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry for every hurt I caused. I studied him for a long moment. This broken man was once someone I'd loved, someone I'd built a life with. That person was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned hard lessons too late. I forgive you, I said finally. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger would only hurt me. You're forgiven, Kunal, but that doesn't mean you're welcome in my life. I understand. He nodded, looking around at the obvious wealth and happiness that filled our home. I'm glad you found someone worthy of you. You deserve everything you have here. After he left, Ibrahim pulled me close. That was gracious of you. It was necessary for me. Forgiveness isn't about him. It's about freeing myself from the last chains of that marriage. You're an extraordinary woman, Adora Adu. I smiled at my married name. I'm a woman who knows her worth. Finally, that evening, we hosted a dinner party, something we did monthly, gathering friends, family, and business associates for good food and better conversation. Our dining room gleamed with the finest china. Crystal glasses caught candlelight like captured stars, and the aroma of jollof rice, egusi soup, and grilled fish filled the air. Zainab served as hostess in training, having volunteered to help coordinate the event. It was part of her growth, her learning to serve rather than be served, to contribute rather than just consume. More wine, Mrs. Adu, she asked me, the title coming more naturally now. Thank you, Zainab. My children were home from university for the holidays. My son studying law at Cambridge, my daughter pursuing medicine in London. They laughed and talked with Ibrahim's cousins and business partners, everyone blending into one large, complicated, but ultimately loving family. A toast, Ibrahim announced, standing at the head of the table with his glass raised. To family, both the one we're born into and the one we create. To second chances and new beginnings. To my beautiful wife, who showed me that it's never too late to find real love. To Adora, everyone chorused, glasses clinking. As I looked around the table at faces both familiar and new, at the life I'd built from the ruins of betrayal, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was victory, not in watching enemies suffer, but in creating something so beautiful that their suffering became irrelevant. After dinner, as guests mingled on our terrace overlooking the Lagos night, Zainab approached me privately. I'm seeing someone, she said shyly. A good man. Single, age-appropriate, serious about his faith and family. That's wonderful. I wanted to ask, she hesitated, if you and Daddy would meet him. Give your approval. Maybe. The irony was not lost on either of us. The girl who'd once flaunted her relationship with a married man now sought her father's blessing for a proper courtship. Growth looked good on her. Of course we will. Bring him for Sunday lunch next week. She smiled, genuinely this time. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow. You took yours. That's what matters. By our 7th anniversary, the Ottawa Conquo Group had become one of West Africa's most successful conglomerates. We'd expanded into technology, renewable energy, and even entertainment. I discovered a passion for mentoring young female entrepreneurs, while Ibrahim focused on sustainable development projects. We sat in our corporate office, a stunning glass building in Victoria Island, reviewing quarterly reports. The women's microloan program has exceeded projections by 40%, I reported, unable to hide my satisfaction. We've funded over 500 businesses this year alone. Your father would be proud, Ibrahim said, knowing how much my late father's legacy of hard work and integrity meant to me. Our fathers, I corrected. Both of them believed in building things that last, in creating value rather than just extracting it. Unlike Kunnel, who'd seen business as a way to fund his lifestyle, Ibrahim understood that wealth was a tool for creating more opportunities, for lifting others up. It was one of the 1,000 reasons I loved him. My phone rang, a video call from my daughter. She was excited, almost bouncing on screen. Mummy, guess what? I got accepted to the surgical residency program. I'm going to be a surgeon. Sweetheart, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Ibrahim leaned into view. Congratulations, my dear. Your mother and I will fly to London next month to celebrate properly. After we ended the call, I sat back, marveling at how far we'd all come. My children had weathered the divorce and come out stronger, more resilient. They'd learned that endings could lead to better beginnings, that their mother was more than just someone's wife. She was a force of nature in her own right. What are you thinking? Ibrahim asked, noticing my contemplative expression. I'm thinking about that night 7 years ago when I discovered Kunnel's affair. How I thought my world was ending. How I believed I'd lost everything that mattered. And now I know I actually lost nothing of value. I lost dead weight. And in losing it, I found room for something infinitely better. He came around the desk, pulling me to my feet and into his arms. We found each other. We found ourselves, I corrected. And then we found each other. That's the difference. I'm not with you because I need you to complete me. I'm with you because two whole people make something even stronger than two halves. The 8th Annual Women Rising Foundation Gala was our biggest event yet, held at the Eco Hotel's Grand Ballroom. It attracted donors, success stories, and women seeking support from across West Africa. I stood at the podium in a breathtaking red and gold Ankara gown, my geli wrapped in the elaborate style that had become my signature. Looking out at hundreds of faces, women who'd overcome abandonment, betrayal, poverty, abuse, I felt the weight of responsibility and privilege. 8 years ago, I began, my voice carrying through the ballroom. I was a woman who just discovered her husband's infidelity. I felt worthless, disposable, used up. I believed my value was tied to my marriage, that without it, I was nothing. The room was silent, every woman recognizing something of herself in my story. I was wrong. And I'm here tonight to tell you that if you're feeling that way right now, you're wrong too. Your value isn't determined by who stays or leaves. It's not measured by whether someone else appreciates you. Your value is inherent, unchangeable, absolute. Applause rippled through the crowd, building to a standing ovation. This foundation has helped over 2,000 women start businesses, leave abusive situations, get education, find legal representation. But more than that, we've helped women remember their worth. And that's the real success story. After the speeches, as I mingled with guests, a young woman approached me nervously. She couldn't have been more than 30, wearing a modest but clean outfit, her eyes red from recent crying. Mrs. Adu, I just found out my husband has been cheating with my own cousin. I don't know what to do. I have 3 children, no job, no money of my own. I took her hands in mine, holding them firmly. What's your name? Blessing. Blessing, listen to me carefully. Right now, you feel like your world is ending. But it's not ending. It's transforming. You have a choice. You can let this break you, or you can let it remake you into something stronger. But how? I have nothing. You have yourself. You have your strength, your intelligence, your determination. Everything else can be built from there. I handed her my card. Call my office Monday morning. We'll get you into our emergency housing program, connect you with a lawyer, and start a job training program. You're not alone in this. She burst into tears, gripping my hands like a lifeline. Thank you. Thank you so much. Watching her walk away with hope replacing despair on her face, I felt Ibrahim's arm slide around my waist. You give them more than money or programs, he said quietly. You give them hope. You show them it's possible to survive and thrive. Someone once showed me the same thing, I said, leaning into him. Someone believed I was worth more than the man who betrayed me ever appreciated. 10 years after our wedding, we received news that Kunal had passed away. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected. He was only 57. I stood at his funeral, not in the front row where family sat, but in the back, observing. His elderly mother wept. My children, now grown and established in their own careers, looked somber but not devastated. Their relationship with their father had been cordial but distant in his final years. The woman beside him wasn't Zainab. She'd escaped that mess years ago and was now happily married to an accountant, living a modest but content life in Abuja with 2 children. No, this woman was someone new, someone else who believed his promises. After the burial, my son approached me. Are you all right, Mom? I'm fine, darling. Just reflecting on how life turns out. He was a fool, my daughter said bluntly. She'd inherited my directness along with my business sense. He had everything and threw it away. He was human, I corrected gently. He made terrible choices, but he was still your father. It's okay to grieve what could have been, even while accepting what was. Later that evening, back in our penthouse, Ibrahim found me on the balcony, staring out at the Lagos lights. Thinking about him. Thinking about the woman I was when I was married to him. So much smaller, so much less than I could have been. He didn't make me small, I allowed it. That's what I regret most. Not what he did, but that I accepted so little for so long. And now, I turned to face my husband, this man who'd seen me at my worst and chosen to love me at my best. Now I'm exactly who I was meant to be. Successful, strong, valued. A woman who knows her worth and accepts nothing less than what she deserves. I'm grateful every day that I get to love you, Ibrahim said, pulling me close. That I get to witness your magnificence. We're a good team. The best. At 60 years old, I stood in the boardroom of Auto Conquo Group, preparing to hand over CEO responsibilities to my daughter, who'd completed her medical training but discovered a passion for healthcare administration and social enterprise. The company is in good hands, I told the board of directors. Better hands than mine, actually. She has my business sense and her stepfather's strategic vision, plus the innovation of her generation. Ibrahim, now 71 and still devastatingly handsome with his silver hair and dignified bearing, squeezed my hand. We were transitioning into the next phase of our lives. More philanthropy, more travel, more time with grandchildren. Yes, grandchildren. My son had given us 2. My daughter was pregnant with her first. And Zainab, now fully reconciled with our family, had 3 children who called us Grandpa and Grandma Adora with genuine affection. Life had come full circle in ways I never could have imagined that terrible night 20 years ago when I discovered Kunnal's betrayal. Any regrets? Ibrahim asked as we drove home from what would be my last official board meeting. Not a single one. Well, maybe one. What's that? I regret all those years I wasted believing I was boring, traditional, stuck in the past. All because someone who didn't appreciate me said so. I should have known better sooner. But you learned. That's what matters. I did learn. I learned that revenge is hollow unless it transforms into something meaningful. I learned that the best response to betrayal isn't destruction, but creation. I learned that my value doesn't depend on anyone else's perception. And you taught countless others the same lessons. Our foundation had grown beyond anything we'd imagined. Chapters in 12 African countries. Thousands of women helped. Millions of dollars distributed in microloans and grants. The Women Rising Foundation was my true legacy, more valuable than any business deal or property acquisition. That evening, surrounded by family at a dinner celebrating my retirement, I looked around the table and felt overwhelming gratitude. My children, successful and happy. Their spouses and children. Zainab and her family. Ibrahim's extended family. Friends who become family. This was victory, not in watching enemies suffer, not in accumulating wealth for its own sake, but in building something beautiful from the ashes of what others had tried to destroy. A toast, my son said, standing with his glass raised. To the most remarkable woman I know, my mother, who taught us that endings are just beginnings in disguise, that our worth is internal, not external, and that the best revenge is living well. To Mum, everyone chorused. To Grandma Adora, the children added, their voices high and sweet. As I looked at Ibrahim across the table, our eyes meeting with the understanding of 2 people who'd walked through fire together and emerged not just unburned but transformed into something stronger, I smiled. 20 years ago, Kunnal called me boring. Today I was anything but. I was a business icon, a philanthropist, a mentor to thousands, a grandmother, and most importantly, a woman who knew her worth. The girl who tried to take my place had learned humility the hard way. The man who betrayed me had died with regrets he could never fix. But me? I had thrived. I had soared. I had won not by destroying them, but by becoming so magnificent that their betrayal became irrelevant. Late that night, after everyone had gone home, Ibrahim and I sat on our balcony one last time before heading to bed. The Lagos night was warm, the city lights twinkling like earthbound stars. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Kunnal hadn't cheated? I asked, if you and I had never met. Ibrahim considered this seriously. I think we would have found each other eventually. 2 people meant to be together always find a way. That's very romantic. That's very true. You pulled me closer. But I'm grateful for the path that brought us together, painful as it was. Because it taught us both what we truly wanted, what we truly valued. I wanted to be seen, to be appreciated, to be valued as a partner, not just a possession. And I wanted someone who understood loss and resilience. Someone who'd weathered storms and come out stronger. Someone who matched my strength instead of expecting me to carry everything. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city we'd helped shape through our businesses and philanthropy. The young women in our programs, I said thoughtfully, they often ask me if I regret the time I spent with Cunnel. If I consider those 17 years wasted. What do you tell them? I tell them that nothing is wasted if you learn from it. Those years gave me my children. They taught me what I didn't want. They prepared me to recognize real value when it finally appeared. Without those years, I wouldn't have been ready for you. Wise words. Hard-earned wisdom. I smiled. But the truth is, I'm grateful for all of it now. The betrayal led to the investigation, which led to meeting you, which led to this incredible life. If I could go back and prevent Cunnel's affair, I'm not sure I would. Because it would mean losing everything I have now. That's the ultimate victory, Ibrahim said. When you can look at the thing that almost destroyed you and feel grateful for it. Not because of what it was, but because of what it led to. As we prepared for bed, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. 60 years old, silver threading through my hair despite regular salon visits. Laugh lines around my eyes from 20 years of genuine happiness. I looked distinguished, powerful content. Nothing like the broken woman who'd watched her husband kiss another woman in their marriage bed 20 years ago. That woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, more complete. Someone who'd learned that the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. It's becoming so magnificent that your enemy's opinions become irrelevant. It's building a life so beautiful that their betrayal becomes a gift in disguise. Coming to bed, Ibrahim called from the bedroom. In a moment, I said, taking one last look at the woman in the mirror. The woman who'd survived betrayal and emerged victorious. The woman who'd married her cheating husband's mistress's father and turned it into the greatest love story of her life. I whispered to my reflection, well done. Well done indeed. And then I went to join my husband, closing the door on the past and embracing the beautiful present we'd created together. The documentary crew wanted to film at our original penthouse, the one where everything had begun. Now 85, I sat in my favorite chair, the same one I'd sat in 25 years ago when this whole story started, while they set up their cameras. Mrs. Adu, the young interviewer began, your story has inspired millions of women across Africa and beyond. How does it feel to be called a symbol of female empowerment and resilience? I laughed, the sound still strong despite my age. I'm just a woman who refused to let betrayal define her, who chose to build instead of destroy, who learned that the best revenge really is living well. Your foundation has helped over 50,000 women now. What would you say to women facing similar situations today? I looked directly at the camera, thinking of all the women who might watch this, who might be sitting in their own moments of devastation, wondering if they could survive. I would say this, you are not what happened to you. You are not defined by who left you, who betrayed you, who didn't appreciate you. Your value is inherent, unchangeable, absolute. And sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the universe clearing space for the best thing to enter your life. And Al-Haji Ibrahim, where is he today? My smile softened. He passed 2 years ago, peacefully, surrounded by family. We had 43 years together. 43 years of partnership, respect, love, and adventure. He was the greatest blessing of my life. Any regrets? Only one, I said firmly. I regret not knowing my worth sooner. But I suppose we all learn in our own time. After the crew left, I sat alone in the quiet penthouse, now maintained as part of the Foundation's headquarters. On the wall hung a photograph from our wedding day. Ibrahim and I, younger but already transformed, looking at each other with the understanding of two people who'd found unexpected salvation in each other. Next to it hung another photo, Zainab at her own wedding 15 years ago, looking genuinely happy with her accountant husband. She'd become one of the Foundation's most effective counselors, using her own story of poor choices and redemption to help other young women avoid similar mistakes. And there was Cunnel's photo, not prominently displayed, but present. A reminder that even those who hurt us are human, flawed, deserving of grace, if not forgiveness. He died 20 years ago, his legacy complex and cautionary. But my legacy? My legacy was 50,000 women who'd learned their worth. Children and grandchildren who understood that endings could become beginnings. A business empire built on ethics and excellence. A foundation that would continue long after I was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter, now running both the foundation and the business empire with the same fierce competence she'd inherited from me. Mom, we just funded our 50,000th business. We did it. Thank you for showing us all what's possible. I replied, you did the work. I just showed you it could be done. Proud of you always. As the Lego sun set one more time, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, I felt a profound sense of completion. The girl who'd been called boring and traditional had become a woman whose story inspired millions. The wife who'd been betrayed had become a leader who'd changed thousands of lives. And the best part? None of it was about revenge anymore. It was about redemption, resurrection, and the remarkable things that can grow when you plant seeds in the ashes of what others tried to destroy. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of the setting sun on my face, and smiled.